children of one mother Africa. We are going to join hands and go home. We are answering the call from our African heads of states. Let's do it. The ability to open up Africa, to say, come home if you wish, come to stay, come to visit. But Africa is saying, welcome home. That alone is healing in a very profound way. Right now, there is no voice. African Union is like a dead entity, and something needs to happen there. African Union is one entity that could speak on behalf of the continent, that could speak and call out those who are abusing Africa. It is the one place that we could actually let the world know that the exploitation and abuse of the African continent has got to come to an end.
Hello, brothers and sisters. I really hope you're all doing fine from wherever you're watching me from now. Dr. Arikana Chihombori and many other leaders in Africa are now calling for the children of Africa and the diaspora to come back home and develop this continent. Now, this is the first step to the unity we've been talking about, and this is the step that is going to make us realize the unity, and this is whatever is going to develop the motherland. So let's watch this video together, then have a real quick discussion at the end of it. Thank you so much.
I want you to know I have now registered an entity that is called the African Diaspora Development Institute. This entity is going to be a one-stop shop for everything African. This entity is where we, the children of Africa in the diaspora, are going to converge and discuss issues pertaining to our continent. In particular, in view of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is going to be implemented this year, it is imperative that we come together and speak with one voice. Because if we do not, those from the East and those from the West are ready with their funding and their expertise to take that place that has your name. The African diaspora, we cannot afford to not be on the table. We cannot afford to be left out. Africa belongs to us. And as such, we must drive the continental agenda for Africa. The Institute is going to be concentrating on 5 major projects. The first project is the database. Naturally, as you can understand, without the database, nothing can move. Secondly, it is the Diaspora Fund. This is in the process of being registered. I'll keep you posted when the finance team advises me as to where they are in the process. Thirdly, the Legacy Project. We are taking a page out of the Jewish playbook. Our children will not know Africa through osmosis. We must make the connection. We, the elders, have a responsibility to connect our children. Through the Legacy Project, we are going to be fundraising in order to give a round-trip ticket to students who are in college during the 3rd or 4th year to spend a month at a university in Africa. To whom much is given, much is expected. We're also going to be raising funds to help our youth who are struggling on the continent. We will be offering them interest-free loans of up to $500. In the process, we are also going to assist them in making sure that whatever project they choose to embark on succeeds. We're also going to be giving interest-free loans of up to $500 to women on the continent. Also, monitoring their projects to make sure that whatever they choose to embark on is a success. And lastly, our flagship project is the African Diaspora Centers of Excellence, aka Wakanda. This is going to be funded outside the Institute by the fund. The African Diaspora Fund is the one that's going to be investing in the continental projects. A team of diaspora finance people are going to be making a decision in terms of which projects the fund is going to be funding. It is an exciting time, and I hope we can all pay attention to what is going on at the Institute, and I will be giving you live updates as often as I need to do so. Welcome aboard. On this website, you're going to find all the information that you need in order to find out more about the amazing, wonderful things the Institute is going to be involved in. Now, remember, the Institute is going to be as successful as we make it. So I'm asking all of you to visit the website. Be sure to be part of the database. Please sign up. Also, be sure to pay your membership. We cannot do all of these projects that we want to get involved in, particularly the legacy project, where we are going to be giving round-trip tickets to our children in the 3rd and 4th years of college. So as you can see, it's an amazing time for us African diaspora. We really are at a point of do or die. If we do not come together this time for the sheer survival of us, then let's do it for our children, our grandchildren, and generations to come. I'm looking forward to so working with you. This is what I've come up with. This is an answer to your call. For those who thought I was just going to disappear, I'm sorry, I'm not going anywhere. The diaspora must go home. The diaspora are the missing ingredient for us to be able to build a sustainable Africa. Besides, our heads of states have spoken loud and clear. The children of Africa in the diaspora must come home. I have no doubt in my mind that we are all going to come together and say, divisions, no more. The legacy of slavery, no more. The legacy of colonization, no more. No more shall we continue to be divided. No more shall we continue to have self-hate. This is our time. We're going to learn from other diaspora groups in this country, and we will stick together like super glue, because we, the beautiful, the intelligent, the sophisticated, highly adaptable, and totally indestructible, we pass it on to our children. Have you ever wondered, of all the colors on earth, why were 2 colors chosen? Black color and white color. Follow me on this one. You take a white color, you associate it with Jesus Christ. You associate it with the angels. You associate it with purity and everything wonderful and everything desirable. And then you take a race that's not even white and you say you are white. Yes. And then you take another color. You associate it with the devil. You associate it with everything undesirable. I've never seen a bank robber wearing a white mask. All the villains on movies are black. Everything undesirable is black. And then you take another race that are not even black and say, you guys, you are black. Yeah. Now go at it. Speak, my sister. As we black mothers are trying to raise our children in our own homes, as much as we try to tell them that you're black and you're beautiful, guess what? The minute they step outside the door, the messages are completely different. A barrage of subliminal messages telling our children that that which you represent is horrible. How do we fight against that? How do I tell my granddaughter that you're black and beautiful, but the world tells her otherwise? The voices echoing her blackness as a symbol of everything undesirable are much, much louder than even we black mothers. We come together, we can never drown those subliminal messages. They were all by design. Let me take you to the beginning. Certainly for Africa, your continent. Because as we gather here today, as we try to strategize, as we try to create those linkages between those Africans away from the continent and the Africans on the continent, we must understand, how did we get here? And for Africa, it starts with that monumental decision when the colonizers, came together in Berlin in 1884. And let me say, prior to 1884, they were coming to Africa in a haphazard way. They had started with slavery. And then when they felt like they needed the slaves to stay on the continent, they say, oh, we no longer believe in slave trade. Let's stop it. No. It was really just another way of saying the labor is needed on the continent. Let's keep the monkeys on the continent so we can continue to exploit them. So 1884, they met in Berlin to organize themselves so they can effectively loot from the monkeys. They did not meet in Berlin to see to it that Africa would prosper. No. Let me repeat. The colonizers met in order to see to it that your Africa, our Africa, and her children, not only on the continent, are forever defeated and dominated. That was 135 years ago. The manner in which they did it, they took out the map of Africa while the Africans were sleeping, minding their own business. Started to chop up your continent into the tiny little countries that we see today. The bigger and more powerful a kingdom was, the more countries that came out of it. Not only more countries, but these countries were given to different colonizers who spoke different languages. Let me bring it home for a second. Pretend you're driving from Zambia, you're speaking English. Pretty soon you are in Angola, you're speaking Portuguese. Then DRC, French. Equatorial Guinea, Spanish. Southern Cameroon, French. Northern Cameroon, Southern Cameroon, English. Northern Cameroon, French. You are now in Nigeria, English. Hello. These were the same people. Prior to 1884, we were powerful, amazing kingdoms with well-established educational and religious systems. If the truth be told, we had the civilization. We were the civilized. They were the devils, the uncivilized ones. They set out to take everything that symbolized civilization in Africa. To this day, they're still refusing to give up those relics. If those relics were not that good, why are you keeping them? We were way ahead of them in our civilization. They set out to destroy us. And Berlin Conference put the nail on that coffin. So they gave Djibouti the same sovereignty as the United States. They gave Burundi the same sovereignty as China. They gave Togo. You see, the EU realizes individual little countries, they can't survive on the world stage. So they come together as the European Union. Now picture this now. So they cut up this Africa into the tiny little countries, small economies that could never survive on their own, but gave them the same sovereignty as the big boys. So that way, when the little bitty countries go to the world stage for the purposes of development and discussing trade, they're wannabe boxers who are being thrown into the heavyweight boxing ring every day. How do you put China in the same boxing ring with Eswatini? Eswatini has 1.2 million people. China has 1.4 billion people. And you put them on the same stage and say, go at it, negotiate. Are you with me? Yes. This is insanity of the highest order. How have we allowed this carnage to go on? When Eswatini is thrown in the same boxing ring with China and Eswatini collapses before Eswatini even gets on the stage, the world says, well, Eswatini, what's wrong with you? Why can't you take care of your people? Well, China came in and said, Eswatini, give me all your gold or else. And if Eswatini does not agree, they just go on next door to Lesotho and give Lesotho an extra $1. And if Lesotho doesn't take it, they just jump on to Togo, Central African Republic. It was all by design. 1884. They did something else in addition to chopping us up. They also set out to make the African believe that everything African was bad and undesirable, and everything Western, particularly French and British, was more desirable. We call that the legacy of colonization. Prior to that, they had started long working on the slaves. Make them think everything about them, forget anything about Africa. Where you come from is a horrible place, diseased and dying people, constantly at war with themselves, uncivilized. Cut out any communications with them. You need to just know what we tell you. And we call that the legacy of slavery. So that's where you look at where we are today. 135 years later, a system that was put in place to see to it that Africa and her children are forever defeated, that Africa is forever exploited, remains in place today, alive and well. And we sit here and we ask ourselves, why isn't Africa moving forward? Why does Africa continue to be taken advantage of? Well, I'll tell you why, very simply. Until Africa comes together as a continent speaking with one voice, one continent, one people, nothing, and I repeat, nothing is gonna change. As individual little African countries, we are wannabe boxers. We will never make it fighting against the heavyweights. We must speak with one voice. Yeah. And this is exactly what our Pan-African leaders wanted to see happen in 1963 when they came together in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia. They clearly stated that Africa for the Africans at home and abroad, and that African Union was now. They said Africa must speak with one voice. It is the only way for Africa to take its rightful place on the world stage. Sadly, when they went to Addis Ababa in 1963, they were divided. We had two factions, the Casablanca group and the Monrovia group. The Casablanca group were saying Africa for the Africans at home and abroad, and African Union now. This was Ghana, Guinea, Mali, Egypt, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. Only 7. The other 25 of the 32 who attended were the Monrovia group. They were the nationalists. They said, let's go slow. Let's kind of wait on this Pan-African thing. 55 years later, 56 this year, we're still going slow. As if it wasn't bad enough that we were divided up into the tiny little countries that we are today. The gift that Berlin Conference gave us. One other thing that France did between 1958 and 1961 in the name of giving us our independence as African countries. France forced the Francophone, and I hate that terminology. There is no such thing as Francophone, Anglophone. They made it up. But for the purposes of communication, I will use that. 14 of those countries, they said, in order for you to get your independence from us, you must sign this document. You thought they could have found a better name for the document. The document was called the Pact for the Continuation. I repeat, the Pact for the Continuation of Colonization. We are talking about giving you independence, but sign this pact for the continuation of colonization in a different format. And I'm going to highlight some of those issues that they said you must agree to if you are going to be independent. Hello. Maybe we need to redefine the meaning of independence for the French. First, France said, you see, you monkeys, you don't know how to manage your money. We're going to demand that you deposit 85% of your bank reserves with the French Minister of Finance. Under the French Central Bank, under the control of the French Minister of Finance. France is then going to take your 85% bank deposits from each and every one of you. Deposit those funds in the French stock market under the French name. And you may or may not know the returns. Today, as we speak, the latest figures are saying for every 14 billion that France invests in the stock market from Africa. They are realizing upwards of 300 billion in return. Every year in, year out, because of these deposits from the African countries, France is taking out of Africa over $500 billion. Now figure it out. For every 14 billion, the returns on the investment are over 300 billion, and they are taking over 500 billion. So in actuality,
with the overbearing influence of France on states it once colonized, but it appears that no one saw the outrage that would greet that, and even how much more popular your gospel was going to get. Did you envisage all of this at all since 2019?
Not at all. Even during my tenure, I was simply delivering on my mandate. As a medical doctor, I went to Washington, of course, reluctantly. But of course, once a doctor, always a doctor. I started making diagnosis while I was in Washington. And my diagnosis, first and foremost, became the ignorance that we had of our understanding of Africa, not only as Africans, not as Black people around the world, but even members of Congress themselves, the US government, they really don't understand Africa. So I set out to address the issue of the ignorance about what was going on in Africa, educating the African diaspora primarily, and secondarily, those in the US government and anybody else that wished to listen to the message. Because I felt that that was the root cause of what was going on in Africa, the lack of understanding and appreciation of what was really going on in Africa, and more importantly, identifying the root causes. And for Africa, I came to the conclusion that France was the biggest risk to peace and security and overall African development, particularly in West Africa, because of one particular agreement that they would make the African heads of state sign when they were receiving their independence. It was a horrible, continues to be a horrible document that sadly, it has been allowed to continue to this very day, to the serious detriment of the Africans. So I set out to educate the Africans about France. Others would say, why didn't you talk about the British and all other colonizers? Yes, we would speak about them as well. But the one that is leading the pack, the one that is taking the crown of the abuse and exploitation, it is France. And I felt very strongly that if France can come to the table and also renegotiate those contracts, if France can leave Africa, that would be the beginning of true liberation. And I'm talking economic liberation of the African continent. So France is leading the pack because of its deep roots within Africa, because of the agreements that the heads of states were made to sign during independence of Africa.
Yeah, by that document, I know you were referring to the Pact on the Continued Colonization. I think you've made reference to it in quite a number of your speeches. The continued colonization of African states. Is that it?
That's correct, yes. That continues to be in place today. And through that document, African countries, the former French colonies, upwards, it used to be 85% of their bank reserves had to be deposited with the French treasury. It's now down to around 50 to 60%. To this day, poor countries are sending their bank reserves to France. To this day, poor countries, the first right of refusal of all contracts, public, private, large, small, French companies, the first right of refusal. To this day, all minerals discovered yet to be discovered, France has the first right of refusal. To this day, those former French colonies, all their military must be trained by France. All their military equipment must be purchased from France. And France has a presence in their countries and can invade those countries without notice should they feel their French interests are being violated. So at every level, the document is horrible and it remains in place today. I was horrified when I began to see the extent to which people simply did not know. So I made that my mission number one. Because as a medical doctor, if you're dealing with let's say, an accident situation, you first assess the heart. Does the patient have a heartbeat? Is the patient breathing? You don't worry about the broken bone. You don't worry about other peripheral damages. You start with the core. If the patient is breathing, if the patient has a heartbeat, you must revive them, get a heartbeat, get the lungs, get them breathing, and then you can deal with the other peripheral issues. So I felt the heartbeat of what was ailing Africa started with France. If we can deal with what France is doing in Africa, dealing with the rest of the colonizers will be easy, for their roots are not as entrenched into Africa as the French roots to this day.
Well, there are a number of Africans who have also delved very deep into this. I mean, I mentioned Kwame Nkrumah, you know, right from the days of independence of many African countries. He also worked very hard for the independence of Ghana. We also have literary giants who've also delved into this. One of them is a Nigerian, Chinua Achebe, who has, you know, delved very deep into, you know, talking about the colonization and, you know, the neo-colonization of African minds and even our literature, and how all of this seeps very deep. I mean, Things Fall Apart continues to be, you know, quite a literary work that everyone refers to. But some people say, you know, we talk about root causes and immediate causes. What share, if you were to distribute, say, causes, I don't want to say blames, but if you were to, maybe I should use that word blame. If you were to distribute blame along root causes and immediate causes of where Africa currently is unable to fully achieve her potential, how will you distribute the blame?
I'm going to start with, of course, the mind, which is where, at the end of the day, that is where the problem really is. The legacy of colonization remains to be a serious issue for the African. It is the legacy of colonization that makes it difficult for us as a people to push back. Let me give a very simplistic example, and I use simplistic examples because I want people to really understand what's going on. Using the example of Niger, there is a mutiny in the school cafeteria. The students are sick and tired of a bully who's been taking their lunch for centuries. Finally, they've garnered enough courage. They now have enough knowledge to understand, and they're ready to stand up and push back against the bully. The question then becomes, why has it taken the students so long to stand up and push the bully back? It's because the students have been made to believe that you are inferior. The students have been threatened. The students believe that they're not as good as the bully. The headmaster, some have been smart enough and have tried to push back. Guess what? They were assassinated. But finally, the students now have enough knowledge. Question is, why has it taken this long for the students to have enough courage? But be it as it may, the legacy of slavery, the legacy of colonization left the African in feeling inferior, feeling they're incapable, admiring everything else that somebody else is doing, that everything African is undesirable, that we're always looking to what those who don't look like us are doing, and we want to emulate what they are doing. Mm-hmm. That, to me, the biggest risk to Africa's development is the mind. When we can... Yes, go ahead.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, but I just wanted, you know, to focus on that particular question. If you were to distribute, and I'm not going to, you know, take away from the fact that you said, you know, the mind is where we need to start from. But if you were to distribute it in terms of, you know, apportioning blames to the root cause and the immediate cause, because people have also pointed at how it is that Africans themselves are conducting themselves and, you know, do not seem to have sufficient compassion for the people as African leaders, do not have sufficient compassion for the people that they lead. How would you distribute this particular blame? Would you say 50% to root causes, 50% to immediate causes? In what proportion would you share it?
I would say the biggest problem right now is the mind. I still believe it is the mind. Secondly, the average African leader is fighting with their hands tied behind their back, and in some cases also blindfolded. I really don't want us to get lost in the mud about peripheral issues. Remember what I said. You get into an accident situation, first you assess the heartbeat. Does the patient have a pulse? Is the patient breathing? We worry about the blown up eye, we worry about the broken bone later. We must go to the root causes. If a president of a country, my daughter, let me take you, you become the president of Nigeria today. With all good intentions, you are told, do not talk about your military, because we got that under our control as France. Do not talk about your financial resources. We control your central bank. We manage your financial policies. Do not talk about your finances. We have that under our control. Do not talk about your natural resources. Those belong to us. All your contracts, we shall choose and decide who builds your country. Now, if you stay away from all that, you are now free to run your country. What do you have? You've given up your natural resources. You've given up control of your financial resources. You've given up control of your military. What kind of a leader are you? I don't care what intentions you have. I don't care how Pan-African you are. I don't care how smart you are. Your hands are tied behind your back and you're blindfolded and you're supposed to engage in a fight and win. How? So I'm saying, before we even talk about how good a leader you are, I can tell you, I was joking with a friend. I said, I'm pretty sure right now, President Bazoum is probably happy. Because what kind of country was he leading? He had no power. He had nothing to control. That's a joke of a leadership. So once we understand that, we then go back and say, okay, fine. With whatever you were given, what have you done with it? Now I'm ready to start putting blame on the leader to say, okay, you had a small budget for healthcare. What did you do? Did you at least build one hospital during that year? Now, if it's a foreign minister, a minister of health, who is now failing to do something with that budget for 1 year, that's where we start putting the blame on local levels to say,
hello, brothers and sisters. Now, it is time we should talk about the black folks and all that things that have happened in the past. We ain't going to live in the past for the longest time. We are not going to live this life. There is need for us to unite, and the biggest step for our unity is one, calling our brothers and sisters to come and invest home, live home, and feel whatever they have missed for the longest time. Now, if we really want to change the course of this continent, if we really want to change the story of the black folks, first we must work as one pact. We must work as one, and we must do things that are going to make our motherland great. And this is why I've always applauded whatever Dr. Chihombori has been saying, Arikana, and I've been talking about Ibrahim Traore, Julius Malema, and all these folks who have been fighting for the rights of black folks, and those who have been talking about the greatness of this continent. Now, Dr. Arikana Chihombori has been talking about bringing the children of Africa back home. There is need for us to do that, and it is the biggest step towards achieving the unity that we've been talking about. We can't achieve unity of our black folks when others are on the other side of the world and us, we are here. We must first try to rectify the mistakes that our grandparents did, those that our ancestors did. They sold our own brothers and sisters to the West. We must first apologize. And I've been so much moved by the fact that I've seen a lot of apologies coming from the western side of Africa. The other one we saw from Uganda, and we've been seeing this happening time to time. And we want our leaders to come and apologize for whatever happened, and assure the diaspora that when they come home, everything will be okay. They will be granted citizenship, and they'll be given somewhere maybe to stay, or even if they're not being given somewhere to stay, but they are being guaranteed that if they invest in the motherland, nothing bad will happen, that their resources will be secured, or their wealth will be secured, and the government will really take control of the situation, and not to see the thing that happened in Gambia and that one that happened in Ghana some years back. I'm very, very happy to see Dr. Arikana talking about this. There is need for us to forget about the past and try and build a future. Let's not make this world so bad. Let's not make ourselves to live in the past, that we keep on blaming those who sold our brothers and sisters. For how long are we going to do this? And to the diasporans, for how long are you going to blame us? Is that going to solve the problem at hand? The problem we have today is the division that exists between us. We are much, much divided. And this one is actually bringing a whole problem to us. And you've seen our continent has been taken for the longest time, and they've misused the continent of Africa. They have exploited it, and neocolonialism still continues in Africa. So when we say that we want Africa to unite with the diaspora and the Caribbean, we are really serious on these issues. This is why we are seeing Ibrahim Traoré has been talking about the children of Africa going back to Burkina Faso and coming back to Africa. It doesn't necessarily mean that everyone should go to Burkina Faso, because the last time I checked, there are 300 million African diasporans who are outside this continent, those that are in America, those in the UK, Germany, and everywhere in the world. So if we were to say they will all go to Burkina Faso, then Burkina Faso will actually run out of resources. Now, there is need for us to better the countries in Africa. There is need for our African leaders to come together and talk about this issue. How are the children of Africa going to come back home? As a matter of fact, I've been talking to a couple of them, and some of them are not doing well because the environment that they are just struggling to survive, because one, the systems have been set against them. They can't rise against the tide. They have been trying for the longest time that you are born and you grow up to a system that does not want to accommodate you. They are trying to push you away. After black folks built America, no one wants them in America. After black folks built the UK, no one wants them in the UK. And this is the story. So there is need for African leaders to see how our brothers and sisters, those who cannot manage flights, those who cannot manage to come and invest in the motherland, how are they going to be helped? Because we've been talking of the same thing for the longest time. We do not have solutions to this. The only solution that lies between the governments of our own countries. They have the resources because most of the monies, most of the taxes have been taken to corruption. So let's stop the corruption. Let's take these monies, see how our brothers will come back. They have skills. They have ideas on how a country can run well economically. So let's bring them back. Some are teachers, some are doctors, some are nurses, some are engineers. But where they are, the system does not want to accommodate them. If we bring them home, a lot of skills are here. Some of them make cars, mechanics. So if we bring them home, then Africa is going to be great. We can't develop Africa with a divided mind, with a divided pact of people that some are talking this language, some are talking the other one. Some are living in Africa, some are living in the diaspora. It is really going to be hard. And the only way we are going to do this is first by acknowledging the mistakes that were made by our ancestors. We must acknowledge these mistakes that our ancestors messed up big time. How are we going to correct this? And to the diasporans, you can't keep on blaming us for the mistakes that were done. Yes, we must apologize and take charge of the things that are happening, and we must actually own the mistakes that were committed during that time. But you also ought to understand, the motherland, that these mistakes happened 400 years back, and no one is 400 years old in Africa right now. That those people died, they passed away. So there is need for us to join. This is a new generation that is talking to you right now. Ibrahim Traoré is a new generation. Dr. Arikana is a new generation. I am a new generation. And everyone else who is talking about the unity of Africa, they are the new generation who have seen whatever was done, that it was bad. They saw our own brothers and sisters. But how are we going to resolve this mess? How are we going to make sure that they come back home? How are we going to make sure that Africa unites, the black folks unite? There is need for us to talk about these things for real, because for once we should acknowledge that the whole world is against black community. This one, I'm not lying, and I'm not going to hide in some lies to please someone. No, I'm going to come out and say the truth that you go in the whole of the European countries and you'll get this movement, a Black Lives Matter, right? This movement couldn't have existed if some people were treating black folks with dignity and respect. These movements couldn't exist if If it were not for black folks who are dying because of police brutality, those who are being accused of doing some things and taken to prisons, these movements couldn't exist if at all white folks could have owned the mistakes that the systems had installed and try to change everything and try to treat black folks as their brothers and sisters instead of just saying it on televisions, just saying it on the newspapers, and trying to come out on TikTok and say how much they respect and want to unite with black folks. But in a real sense, their actions speak difference. So we must actually acknowledge that we are the only ones that are going to save ourselves. That Trump is not going to save you. Joe Biden couldn't have saved you. Obama couldn't have saved you. That it is you, me, and him who are going to save each other. Stand by your brother and make sure that everything that we stand for as black folks, the unity remains constant. That's one thing that is going to make us great. If we still live in the division that we have today, my black folks, my brothers and sisters, it is really going to be messy, and you are going to regret this for the rest of your lives. If we do not unite today, the systems have been installed to be against us. Even the leaders we elect in our own countries have been somehow managed to be corrupted, and they have sold their conscience and they have turned against their people. So it is us against these systems. It is our unity against them. So we must really, really unite, and we must really speak the truth. The truth is whatever is going to save us. Unity is whatever is going to act as our savior at this moment. If we unite, the better. If we want to live in the division, the worse. So I'm very grateful to be sharing this message from Dr. Arikana, and those are legendary leaders who are in Africa, who are doing some good work to make sure that this continent works and black folks come back home and they unite with their brothers and sisters in the continent, and we develop this continent. It has suffered a lot in the hands of the oppressors, in the hands of the United States government, in the hands of the UK, the France. So we must save ourselves, and we must save our motherland. There is no any other place that we will run to if things get bad. It is Africa, and Africa alone, that will accept and maybe welcome us with its warm hands. So let's embrace unity. Let's embrace oneness, and this whatever is going to save us. Thank you so much for having taken the time to watch this video. I appreciate so much, brothers and sisters. If it's your first time on this channel, this is a call for unity. Please subscribe, share, like, and comment on this video. Adios.